see if I can. Hello.
There we go.
We have 6 participants right now. I'm not sure how many others we will have. We have an attendee. Hello, Mike Chin. Hello, Kate. We will get started in just a couple minutes. I'm going to allow people to log in and join our webinar. You are at the Capitol Corridor Business Plan Workshop, in case you're wondering if you're in the right place. And we will get started in a few minutes. I will go ahead and introduce myself. I am Priscilla Kalugnan. I am the Marketing Communications Manager for Capitol Corridor. I want to thank you for joining our 3rd and final session of our annual business plan workshops, which is covering fiscal years 2022 and 2023. Over the next hour, thank you for joining us during your lunch on Friday. We will be hearing from Capitol Corridor staff about our plans and priorities for the next fiscal year. We will be sharing information via slides, but also going through some questions from you, and we would love to have them from you. Those will go into shaping our business plan. Let's see. I'm going to pull up our slide deck now and hope that you can see it. Just give me a moment. Share my screen. And that, and okay, you're able to see the slide deck right now. I will proceed through it. Let's see, before I hand it over to Capitol Corridor staff.
And can you go to slideshow?
Yes,
Priscilla?
yes, we will do slideshow. From the beginning. Okay, so this is our introduction. But before I hand it over to Capitol Corridor staff, I just want to make sure that we go through some housekeeping. All of the participant cameras are turned off for this session, and all participants are muted by default. We do want to hear from you, so we would love to invite you to use the Q&A feature for questions and comments. And I just want to let you know that this workshop is being recorded and will be available online afterwards. With that, I am going to hand it off. Let's see, we've got our Managing Director, Rob Padgett, here. And take it away, Rob.
Thanks, Priscilla. Thank you. And to introduce the rest of our team here, I am also here with Jim Allison, who is our Director of Planning. And he will tell you about all of our great projects that we're up to. And he is also our technology guru. So when your Wi-Fi is working well, you can thank Jim for that. And then Leo Sanchez, who is my Deputy Managing Director. And Leo is very actively involved in a lot of our operations, including mechanical and then on the road operations. So we have everybody here between Priscilla and myself, Jim and Leo. We can answer all of your questions. I want to thank you for your time today. I know for those of you who've been involved before, we have done last couple of years a Facebook Live, which I guess is a precursor to Zoom. And then we also met with many of you on our train. So we pick some of our busier trains and we come out and do public workshops. I know from my perspective, and I can speak for others, this is a fantastic opportunity for us to talk to our customers. We value it tremendously, and we're admittedly a little bit sad that we're not able to do that this year. So we very much encourage you to give us comments if you have questions today. Or if you have comments that you want to submit electronically, we would encourage you to do that. We give our board all of those comments in summary and respond to those comments. So we take all of this seriously and value the time that you're giving us today. We are a little different in terms of schedule this year. So as you may know, in previous years, we usually do these workshops in more of the February timeframe or even late January timeframe, and then present it to our board in February. This year, we pushed that back a little bit. We're still in the midst of responding to the service changes and budget changes that are coming as a result of the pandemic. And so this current fiscal year has been a little bit different than past. And so we're in the midst of doing that. And so we delayed a little bit our business plan. So we will bring this to our board in the middle of April for a draft approval that we will then submit to the state of California for funding. In terms of overall schedule, we are in our last workshop here. So thanks everybody for organizing and attending. And then we will take comments through the 26th of March. And we'll, at the end of this, we have a slide that talks about how you can submit comments. You get the next slide, please. And I won't read all these, but this is all of what we're going to cover today. We'll go through just the highlights, but there's a lot more detail in the business plan. I'd highly encourage you to give it a skim and read the sections that you're particularly interested in. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Leo, who will start to go through some of the details.
Thank you, Rob. We can go to the next slide. For this slide, I want to highlight last year's performance. The period that I'm covering is October 1st, 2019 through September 30th, 2020. Our ridership for this period was 898,000, which is about 51% down compared to a year ago. And normally we're in this about 1.7, 1.8 million ridership for a full year. Our on-time performance was 88%, which is 2 percentage points lower than our 90% plan. Delays per 10,000 miles were 429. And I do want to state that we do not have any planned fare increases for this upcoming year. Next slide. For our operating plan, as of tomorrow, will actually mark a year since we first reduced our service in light of the COVID-19 pandemic, global pandemic. And we're currently running a service between the Sacramento-Oakland segment of 16 weekday and 10 weekend trains. We're working hard for a service increase, and we're looking to increase our service later this year to as many as 24 weekday trains and 16 weekend trains, with a plan for full service restoration in 2022. Lastly, I do want to state that we will be implementing a new schedule on March 29th. So that's coming up in 10 days. This schedule will be operating on a mostly pull schedule. And what that means is a hourly arriving and departing schedule. A few key highlights of this schedule is that it will now be running daily between Auburn and San Jose segment. Previously, the only time we did that was on the weekends. This will also allow for better connectivity at the Richmond BART station with 6-minute transfers in the mornings, and in the afternoon returning about 9-minute transfers. And we also work very hard on the schedule to try to eliminate some of the built-in delays that we previously had in our southern segment of our corridor. Next slide.
Give me just a moment.
With us.
Okay. Sorry, I had to reshare for just a moment.
I can go ahead and keep talking on the next slide. So the next slide was safety and security. And just so everyone knows, we're going to continue to maintain health and safety standards and procedures that we implemented during the pandemic. We are exploring additional sanitizing technology that can help keep riders and all of our passengers safe while riding with us. We are looking to reinstate our cafe car service. And this is, primarily we're looking at the state guidance on this to make sure that we're following indoor dining guidelines. We compare our cafe service, very similarly to how the dining experience in a restaurant looks. And then I do want to mention to all of you that are looking to return to riding with us that we will be continuing the federal mask mandate. Um, and we are following the CDC guidelines as we continue to operate our service. And if you have any questions while we go through the slides, please feel free to ask them in the Q&A. It looks like we have a small group of people, so we should be able to answer most of the questions that come up.
Are you able to see the slides?
Not yet.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought you were. There we go.
There it is.
There we go.
Thank you, Priscilla.
Thanks. Sorry about that.
No worries. On the right-of-way safety front, we're going to be continuing an active program in order to reduce incidents and decrease delays. We always maintain a very active presence on our right-of-way, and we want to continue to do that to make sure that we do everything we can to keep everyone safe as we operate our service. Next slide. For our equipment update, I want to inform everyone that we are currently in a pilot of testing the renewable diesel. Specifically, this is being done on Unit 2103, which is a Charger locomotive. This pilot should be completed this spring, and we are looking for a full fleet conversion by 2022. On the additional equipment that we're looking to get, our partners over at San Joaquin have new venture cars that they should be adding in service later this year. What that will do for us is it will give us some of the existing equipment that it'll free up from their service, and we'll be able to use it on our service. We'll be able to have increased capacity, and really it will give us the ability to reinstate our full pre-pandemic service when budget conditions allow. Another exciting thing on upcoming equipment is that we do have 2 new Charger locomotives that we should be seeing on our property very soon. And these are the latest Tier 4 locomotives, which is the greenest diesel locomotive currently out in the market. These will be replacing 2 Charger locomotives. So stay tuned, and we should have some photos for you all to see that take place. And then on the door panel replacement, we are continuing to replace some of the door panels, and this will continue through 2022. And our plan is that this will mitigate some door-related delays and will offer a quieter ride.
Thank you, Leo. We do have a question that has come up in the Q&A. I thought maybe you could answer this now.
Sure.
And the question is, I'll just go ahead and read it. I know it's a longer term item, but for intermodal travel between San Francisco and Oakland, would it be possible to coordinate the San Francisco-Oakland ferry with the Oakland-Jack London station, especially on the weekends?
That's a very good question. And Rob, I don't know if you or Jim are familiar with how the ferry service runs, if you want to answer that.
I'll say it's a great idea. And, most people that go to San Francisco do get off at Richmond, or and get on BART, or they get off at Emeryville. But I understand the sentiment that especially for tourists, that may be a very appealing, and it's a very short walk to the ferry terminal, Oakland. I know that the Port Authority, the ferry, WIDA, is working on building back their service. Like us, they've had to do a lot of changes to their service, and they have a new director. So we will certainly work with them, as we are with all other transit agencies, to see how much we can coordinate our services. Part of the idea of this schedule change was to create a more predictable schedule. So it would be easier for our transit partners to link their service. But we will absolutely work with the ferry. That's a great point.
Yes, and we'll get into this more when we discuss marketing, but I think that, you know, in the coming months to come, that leisure market will definitely be a bigger factor than it has for us in the past. So definitely be looking at any ways that we can grow the weekend market for sure. Yeah,
Thank you. So next, unless you have any other questions, I'll hand it off to Jim Allison, and he's going to be discussing service amenities and our expansion program.
Great. Thank you, Leo. And the slides up there. Now I'll be talking about the service amenities. We've got a couple of them. One is the California Passenger Information Display System, and you can see in the picture on the bottom there, just above the gentleman's head, is one of our display signs at a station. That station sign is the Passenger Information Display System, but there's much more behind that. And what we're going to be doing in the coming year is replacing kind of the whole architecture behind that. We'll be keeping those signs for a while longer because they still have life in them, but we will be replacing the entire infrastructure behind that. And that is the source, if you will, of the truth of when a train is going to show up at a particular station. There's different rules with that, but for instance, you can see the ETAs are coming from that system. And so that's what you guys rely upon, whether you're on the mobile apps or whether you're at the station looking up at the sign wondering where the train is. So that is getting upgraded as we speak, and it's a complex project because there's a lot of stations around Northern California and even Central California. We're doing this in partnership with the San Joaquin service and partially with the Los Angeles service down in Southern California. The next project is a whopper big one. It's a California Integrated Travel Program called CalITP. This is a program where Capital Corridor is the fiscal sponsor of. It's a program to enable seamless trip planning and payment across different modes of transportation. And that sounds like a lot. So what does that really mean? Well, lots of times when people are planning a trip, they need information. Usually it's coming to them via their phone. This is a program to make sure that all transit around California is operating at the same standard and pushing out quality, reliable information about where their trains or buses or light rail vehicles are. So we're part of that. And the PID system that I mentioned before pushes out a feed that says our trains are here. So we are part of integrating with the trip planning mode to let people know that the train is planned to be in this time slot and you can actually take it between points A, B, C, D. The other piece is payment, and that is to make the payment easier for your transactions. Right now, a lot of agencies use smart cards, and those have a lot of cost and complexity because you have to transfer your money into that smart card and then you can use it. Whereas when you buy coffee at a Starbucks, you just usually use your credit card. And so we're moving towards a mode of using your credit card in a much easier way, or using your smartphone in a much easier way to pay for that trip. And Capital Corridor is part of this. We're going to be rolling out behind the scenes, but then finally, of course, it's going to be right in front of everybody, a different type of ticketing system than the Amtrak system here. Hopefully, the goal is to increase simplicity, make it easier to use by different populations, and to lower costs. One important area that we're considering at this point in time is potentially moving away from monthly and multi-ride tickets and moving to a program where you pay as you go, and then as you ride more, a discount starts to be applied to that trip or to the next trip and the next trip. So it reduces the barrier for those who can't afford a big monthly ticket at the beginning of the month because they might be paying their rent or their mortgage at the time. So it makes it a little easier to roll into it with everybody. And then at the end, if you ride frequently enough, you'd be at your monthly rate. So that's CalITP. We'll be putting word out on that as we ourselves integrate into that whole larger program. The Wi-Fi upgrade is actually something that's been done already. It was finished in December. We have upgraded the entire system of it and are under a program to keep regularly refreshing the technology behind it. But it's going to offer roughly double the bandwidth that we had before. And we have a new landing page feature and other entertainment options on that landing page, on the portal page, including relaxing music, books, and other content that's related to Capitol Corridor's trip. We have one of the programs that was very successful, narrative out in certain areas of the line. It gives you a little history lesson, so it's kind of a fun thing to use and a gateway to that. And finally, bicycle access. We're not seeing so many bikes these days, but we continue to stay on top of that mode. It's a great pairing with trains. We have e-lockers available at most stations, and Davis, which is famous for its bikes, got the double-decker versions of those over the past year. So next slide. Okay, I'll transition now from the service amenities to the bigger projects. These are more rail projects that increase our service or reduce travel time. The first one of these, and it's long awaited, is the famous Sacramento to Roseville third track phase 1 project. This is a project to increase from the 1 daily round trip to up to 3 daily round trips. We're approximately at the 25% design stages right now with Union Pacific, who's our host railroad in this territory. That will, if things are staying on schedule, by the end of next year, we'll be at 100% design, and then in 2023 be ready to go into construction. We do have some capital funding gaps that we need to make up, but we're well within target to see those and utilize those, including some of the new federal opportunities that are available coming up. The next project, the green line at the south, is between Oakland and Ardenwood. That's the South Bay Connect project. That is a rerouting of our trains from the current line that kind of hugs the base of the hills towards a line along the coast. And in fact, it's called the Coast Subdivision. So by doing that, we would not serve Hayward and Fremont stations, which were two of the lower ridership, lower patronage stations along our route. And we would instead have one station and tentatively programmed for Ardenwood, which is an existing park and ride. So this shift not only saves us travel time, it gives us access to the same East Bay markets, but also an aspect of it is that we're right underneath State Route 84 with a connection to the peninsula, and there's a rich level of bus service to different employers in that area. So we think it's a good match. Drop yourself off of the train and then switch to your bus to get to your employer's site across on the peninsula. And finally, the biggest one of them all, say the biggest for last, is the Link 21 project. This is a joint BART Capitol Corridor planning effort to put a Trans-Bay tube crossing. And why that sounds like enough as it is, when you build something that's that extensive, you want to provide a much richer level of service, of regional rail service, so you can really utilize that built asset. So this program isn't just about the crossing, it's about so much more, and the levels of service that we've looked at in our vision plan, looked at in Caltrain's vision plan or their business plan, also the San Joaquin's business plan. Everybody's looking at this because this is one of the bigger markets, but to raise the level of service across the entire route, across the entire Capitol Corridor service from Sacramento, even in future times up to Auburn, all the way down to San Jose Diridon. So this is a transformational project. It's aligned coming from the state rail plan and is a major objective in Northern California. And we have dedicated staff working on this very complex project all the time, except for weekends, but even some weekends. So that's it for me. I'd like to pass it off to Priscilla, who will talk a bit about the marketing side of it. But if there are any questions about what I went over, be happy.
There is one question that popped up in the chat, and it is, are there any plans to integrate South Bay Connect with the Dunbarton Rail Plan?
Let's see. The Dunbarton rail plan is kind of on hiatus right now. If you'd heard about Facebook was looking into that. I think the pandemic has changed their view of that, about how their employees would work on that. So right now, once again, Dunbarton's been up and down over the past 20 years, has had different life spans and interest in it. Right now, there isn't a plan per se to have Dunbarton integrated, but we're prepared that should a Dunbarton service come along, ourselves, the state, and the ACE service, as well as Caltrain, are prepared to have those discussions. So we're very aware that it could come back, but in what form? It may be a heavy rail connection. It might be a different type of connection. It could be a like a light rail, or even kind of even people mover kind of options were discussed. So we're kind of staying tuned on what would happen with that. It remains a possibility in the mix, also with Link 21. Okay, any other questions in
Thank
there?
you.
Yeah.
I don't see any other questions right now.
Okay,
So
great.
I'll go ahead and move on to marketing communications. Oops, that's too far. Okay. Marketing communications. So we've been very busy this past year, as you've noticed. With the pandemic, we've had to really shift a lot of things that we've done, shifting into really putting out lots of health and safety messaging. The state and local guidelines with regard to travel and shelters in place and different public health orders has really taken a big influence on our communications as well as our advertising practices. So that's why you've mostly been hearing from us on health and safety matters and what we've been doing to improve the health and safety on the train. But we're hearing every day of counties moving towards red tier and hopefully orange tier. So we're definitely excited to move from the sort of travel discouraged mode into the travel allowed and travel encouraged mode, which will allow us to welcome back more of our passengers and do a much more aggressive marketing campaign to let people know that we are here and waiting for folks to travel. Our ridership has obviously taken a hit during the past year due to COVID. And I think for us, one of the things that we're doing in the coming months will be to do lots of market research and surveys to really identify where our customers are. We know that there's been a lot of change and movement this past year. People have moved around. They've maybe changed jobs, changed homes. And we want to know a little bit more about what the market will look like. We also know a lot of people are still working from home. And since we have such a heavy business travel segment, we're curious to know how that's going to impact our ridership for the long term and see what happens in that regard. So we'll definitely be focusing a lot on leisure travel and family travel, of course, and just really learning a little bit more about what our new markets are in the coming months. And along with that, I think Jim mentioned talking about ticketing opportunities and what kinds of fare opportunities we might have. We're really eager in the short term and in the long term to know what kinds of conveniences we can build in or flexibility we can build into our ticketing. You may recall last year, we had a 10-ride 45-day ticket. And last summer, we decided to extend that from 45 days to 60 days to allow for people to have a little bit more time to use those tickets in a timely manner for their new travel plans, because we figured people were not traveling quite as often to their destinations. So, things like that we can, if we can make small changes to some of our current ticket products, we'd be eager to hear your ideas and your needs as to what we can do to make things more convenient for you. But yeah, going forward, in the future, when we have a future system, we will definitely be looking at other kinds of products for our fare tickets. And one of the things that we did this year is we launched our Capital Quarter Rewards program. So hopefully you can log on and join that, and it's free. And we put that together so that we could really thank our passengers and connect them with sustainable businesses along our service route, and also help build up some of those businesses too who may need our support as well. So as we all return to what we call our new normal. Looking ahead, at the end of December, Capital Corridor will celebrate its 30th anniversary. So we have some plans around that and hope that we can involve all of our riders in those celebrations and that recognition of that milestone. And of course, we are looking forward to telling you more as the updates come about exciting projects like Link 21 and South Bay Connect, and as we hit all of the milestones in those projects. Let's see if there's any questions. I don't see any questions. Ready? Okay, I will move along. Let's see, this is just how to comment on our public workshop on the business plan draft. Obviously, you can join us here. We'll take all of your comments that came in today and include that in the document and answer them, and include the responses in the document that goes towards our board for approval. And we will also publish that online on our website. You can also go online if you have more questions after seeing this discussion onto capitalcorridor.org/business plan. The link is in the chat. And we also accept, obviously, questions by mail or comments by mail and via voicemail as well. But we do need to get those questions and comments by next Friday, March 26th, so that we can have time to put everything together for our next board meeting. Let's see. Are there any other questions at all? Rob, did you want to add anything more?
Yeah, let's just make sure we don't have any more questions.
Oh,
and
there we go.
Let's see, we got one more question.
Yeah, what is the plan for the cafe car? So we'll answer that one live.
Yeah, I can answer that one, sure.
Okay.
So the directive we have from the California Department of Public Health, is the guidance that we've had, is they asked us to suspend service until we reached what's called the orange tier, which I'm sure you have heard, in the counties in which we operate. So we're getting better, we're getting close. I know a couple of counties are going into orange next week. And then once that happens, we will inform Amtrak that we are interested in returning cafe service. We do have to get state approval for that. And then we have to get the staff back. So it will not happen immediately after we go into orange, but I am very hopeful that we will have something up in the early May to maybe early June timeframe, if I have to guess today.
Definitely something to look forward to, and
for sure,
be able to welcome our passengers back with snacks.
Yeah, and we've been sensitive
have
to the
snacks
fact
at these
that
public workshops online. That's just
that's right. That's right.
You
Well, we
can't
will
bring
have
donuts.
we will have Cappy Hour again in the future. We are sensitive to the fact that some customers probably would prefer that folks have masks on. So we really don't want a lot of people to eat until our caseloads get lower. And so that's a lot of the reason why we're doing that. I know I'm a big coffee drinker, so I know I hate getting on the train, there's no coffee, but hopefully before too long, we will have that, and we will be excited to welcome everybody back to the cafe car. If
there's any
other, yes, Jim.
We can get audio questions too, if there's folks that do want to raise their hand.
They may want to raise their hand. Yeah, I think Priscilla can see if you raise your hand.
Okay, let me see if I can get out of this.
You can. All right. I am not seeing any raised hands.
All right, so we'll wrap up.
I don't see any raised hands.
It's Friday and we've answered everyone's questions.
Okay,
So,
yeah. So thank you for a great update in the chat. Okay, great. I think that we've got just a couple folks left here. Oh, another question just popped up. Here we go. Oh, thanks for the presentation. Thank you for joining us today.
Yes, thank you.
Third and final public workshop. We will have the recordings available online shortly, and we will post that on our website on the business plan page, a link to them when they are available. See, one more question popped up again. Okay, that's good. And I think that that is it for questions today.
Great.
All right.
All right, thanks,
Thank you,
everyone. Have a
everybody,
great
for
weekend.
joining, and happy
Thank you.
Friday to all.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.